So get this. What if I told you that one of the best roadmaps for our crazy, hyper-connected digital world was actually written 150 years ago? Seriously, we're going to dive into how George Eliot's Victorian novel, Middlemarch, is way more than just a classic story. It's this incredibly relevant blueprint for the moral challenges we're all facing right now.
Eliot kicks things off with this unbelievable image. It just perfectly nails the central problem of her time. And, let's be honest, of ours. It's the sheer overload, the constant flood of information, of feelings, of data. It's this deafening roar. So how in the world do you process all of that without just breaking? Well, the novel says we're gonna need some new tools. And that leads us right to this core idea, moral technology. Now, this isn't about gadgets or code, no. This is about the internal software we need to run our lives. Think of it like the ethical operating system that's supposed to help us manage the chaotic world that all our physical tech has created.
What's so brilliant is that Eliot basically uses the entire novel as a kind of laboratory. She's running a huge experiment, testing out different ways of seeing and thinking to figure out, how can our timeless human morality even survive when it crashes head-on with new machines and this frantic, modernizing world? And to run this experiment, she gives us two characters who are, by any measure, absolute geniuses. But as we're about to see, their brilliant minds aren't just not enough. They're actually a huge part of the problem. So on one side, you have Dr. Lydgate. He's the man of the future, a cutting-edge scientist trying to discover the fundamental building block of life. And on the other, you've got Mr. Casaubon, this dusty old scholar trying to find the key to all mythologies. One looks forward, one looks back, but they both fail for the exact same reason. They have zero imaginative sympathy. And that's the real kicker. Their incredible intellect, their ambition, it gave them tunnel vision. Lydgate could peer into the secrets of his cell, but was completely blind to what was going on with his own wife. Casaubon could decipher ancient languages, but couldn't read the needs of the real, living person right in front of him. Their obsession with knowledge blinded them to actual human beings. Okay, so this brings us to the novel's most powerful tool, its central metaphor, really. It's all about a new way of seeing, and it's inspired by the hot new tech of its day. You have to remember, in the 19th century, the microscope was revolutionary. I mean, this thing was a game changer. It was a piece of material tech that was literally showing people a hidden reality, these tiny structures of life that no one had ever seen before. But here is where Eliot does something amazing. She says, yeah, that physical microscope is cool and all, but the real microscope, the most powerful one, is the narrator's voice. The storytelling itself becomes a kind of technology, a moral microscope for seeing all the hidden, messy parts of human life. So what does this narrative microscope show us? Oh, it zooms right in on the stuff we usually miss. The secret reasons people do things. The contradictory thoughts bouncing around in one person's head. Those tiny, overlooked moments that actually define a whole life. And maybe most important of all, it shows us that huge gaping chasm between who we think we are and how everybody else sees us. It's basically a tool for radical empathy. Now, Eliot takes this whole idea of connection and just runs with it. She actually starts borrowing concepts straight from the biology textbooks of her time to describe the town of Middlemarch itself. She uses the word plexus. In biology, a plexus is just a web of intersecting nerves or blood vessels, right? Well, for Eliot, the whole town is a social plexus, a tangled, complicated network where every single person is connected to everyone else. And then she uses the word ganglia, which are these little clusters of nerve cells. This just hammers home the idea that society isn't just a machine. It's a living, breathing organism with its own nervous system, one that processes information and feels things as a collective. So is society as a giant neural network? What are the wires carrying the signal? For Eliot, the answer is simple. The most important moral technology of all is sympathy. Sympathy is the nerve fiber. It's what transmits feeling, what carries ethical energy from one person to another. It's the tool that lets you actually feel what someone else is going through. And without it, the whole social organism just collapses. And right there, that sets up the central conflict of the whole book, and honestly, the central conflict of our time, this constant tug of war between the tools we build and the ethics we need to use them. The whole argument boils down to this. For every new piece of material technology we create, we have to develop a corresponding moral technology to handle it. The railway comes along and speeds up the world, so we need sympathy to stay connected as humans. The microscope reveals a universe of new details, so we need imagination to make sense of it all.
The scalpel can physically heal someone, but only human connection can actually heal a community. And this was not just some abstract idea. I mean, the story is set during a time of massive real-world upheaval. You had radical new science, the railway coming through, and literally changing the landscape. Huge political reforms. All of it was putting this insane pressure on this small town, forcing it to either adapt or just fall apart. The need for new moral tools was desperate. So after exploring all this complexity, this huge, messy problem, what's the novel's final answer? In a world being totally remade by technology, where does real, lasting change even come from? Well, it doesn't come from some grand, heroic gesture. It doesn't come from discovering the key to everything or some breakthrough invention. No, it all comes down to one person making one small, quiet, unhistoric act of kindness. And this is Eliot's final, powerful argument. The health of our big, complex, interconnected society, it isn't decided by our most powerful machines or our most brilliant minds. It's built on the total strength of all our tiny, individual, often overlooked moral choices. It's the little fibers of sympathy that hold the whole web together. Which, of course, leaves us with a massive question for our own time. We have AI, social media, genetic engineering, technologies that are reshaping our world at a speed that is just dizzying. But have we put anywhere near the same effort into developing the sympathy, the imagination, the connection, the moral technologies that we so desperately need to manage them wisely?